What I'm going to talk about really is about the existence of this book, which some of you have, I know. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may never have heard of it, some of you may never want to read it, but it was, for many years there was lots of stuff talked about the bodhran, and we all wanted to believe, everybody wanted to believe this was the oldest thing out. I always believed that, so, but at the beginning of COVID, I started doing some research on it back in 2008, but in the National Museum. But at the beginning of COVID, I decided, there's a bit of time on my hands, so I decided to take it a bit further. And I thought I knew everything about it then, but I had an article of 7,000 words written for a journal. But after 2 years, I had 149,000 words. So I realised that I knew nothing about the bodhran. But I also realised that nobody else knew anything about it. At the tip of the hare's ear, you can see the word up there, in the middle there, the word bodhran. That's the first time the word bodhran, or a word like it, ever appeared in print. This is a manuscript from around the year 1590, and it was a good while ago. The bodhran only was first ever heard of in traditional music in the end of the beginning of the 1960s. Before that, this standard drum kit you see here, like a standard like a jazz drum kit with a drum and a cymbal and a side drum, that's what all Céilí bands played from the 1920s onwards. For almost 40 years, that was the only percussion that was used in Irish music. But when we started, when traditional music was being revived, nobody wanted to be seen with the jazz drum kit. Yeah. So the bodhran seemed to fit the bill better. So shot away right on away. This thing, bodhran, sounded Irish, looked Irish, looked ancient, and he started the fashion. But anyway, there's two things going on here. The word bodhran has two meanings. One means it means just an actual device. Like if you, anybody got a bodhran handy? No, nobody has one here. That's amazing. Right? What is under here? I meant to. But you know, no harm to a bodhran. But the original bodhran was a skin tray, and like if you check, you can put put your. Sorry, I shouldn't do this. Put a thing. Every house had 2 or 3 of these things. There was just a Stone Age vessel for putting food out on the table, potatoes, bringing in turf from the turf sack, bringing corn out to feed the hens. There's lots of mention of this in literature, which I'll talk about. Hope that sits still. It's a living thing, you see. Okay. But anyway, the older meaning was some kind of a device for a tray. Every house, and one account, I'll talk about this in a second. But the other part of the meaning of the word is a person who has no hearing, bad hearing, or no hearing. It's called a bodhran. The two forms of bodhran device. One is the bodhran, the tray or the device or the tool, whatever utensil, container, whatever you want to call it. And the other is a drum, but the drum is a modern version of that. Like the old-fashioned household bodhran, maybe people improvise it as a drum, maybe. There's some evidence of that go back to the middle of the 1800s, but it was always improvising a drum on the household bodhran. And I have lots of information on that in that book, through lots of old manuscripts, over through accounts from writers and through accounts from newspapers, where this is very, very clearly described. This household device or farming device was called a bodhran. Anybody ever been in the National Museum in Castlebar? Yeah. They have a collection of bodhrans there. I went to see them, and they're not on public display. I have no idea why. But I went there in around 2008, and the woman there told me that nobody had ever been to see them since about 1970. That's a long time. And there were at least 30 books written about the bodhran in the meantime, but nobody had ever gone to the place where they have a hoard of about 80 of these devices. They're mostly skin trays, and sieves of various kinds. This is the first time that there was ever, I think, of a drawing, a description of the actual bodhran given. This is a book by the Halls, and they did a tour of Ireland in the 1830s, a kind of a travelogue, and they described being in County Cork, and they have this picture in the book, and they said that this is called they called it bodhran, and they said that every house had 1 or 2 of these things here. If you were plucking a goose for the feathers, you put the feathers into a bodhran. If you were spinning wool, you put the balls of wool into a bodhran, as they called it. if you're bringing corn out to feed the hens, put it into a bodhran. Bringing turf into the turf stack, you put it in a bodhran. Like before, this is like the ancestor of the plastic bucket or the plastic basin. Really, that's what you're playing at the moment. Like a painting from in the Dublin Mountains. A woman, they're winnowing corn. She's holding it. You always got a tall person to the highest possible off the ground, so the grain falls down, the wind blows through it, it blows away the chaff, and you've got the clean grain ready for grinding. But that's kind of, that other one was in Tipperary, this is in Dublin. These things were all, they weren't just in Kerry, or people want to believe they were in Kerry or West Limerick, but in fact, bodhrans were everywhere in the country. This was just an old-fashioned utensil which all agriculture used. They were all over England as well, and I came across one in a museum in France one time. So you made holes in the bodhran and you turned it into a sieve. This is a meal sieve, and the flour fell through. So these are universal as well. Before you had mesh sieves, this is how all grain culture, wherever there was a grain culture, they all used perforated skin sieves or trays, whatever you want to call it. Getting into the language thing, I mentioned the tip of the hare's ear there, the top line, the word bodhran. This is the first time the word ever occurs in any written form, literature or otherwise. This is a manuscript from around the year 1590, an Irish translation of a medical manuscript that was around from the Middle Ages. This word bodhran here, and in the original Latin it was a tabur, which is kind of a medieval drum. If you turn the household bodhran sideways, you normally have it like this. Turn it side, you get a hollow sound. If somebody has a swollen stomach, it's a hollow sound. It could mean that he was talking about a drum, but we don't know. But it's very likely, since every house had 2 or 3 of these things, and there's no mention of any drum anywhere in Irish manuscripts, no mention at all of drum music. It probably meant one of the household bodhran. But that's the earliest occurrence of the word, meaning a device. As regards the drum, like ancient music in Ireland, like all the oldest instruments we have are these horns. Those are the horns, but coming about 1200 years after that, we start getting harps and lyres, stringed instruments in Ireland, and all the talk in manuscripts is of stringed instruments like harps or lyres. The important thing is that music history, if you go by the instruments that people have been using, it's been defined by melody, not by percussion. And all the old manuscripts you hear of harpers, harp schools, harp teachers, harp pupils. Chumpan was the plucked instrument. Lots of reference to those in manuscripts, but no mention of any drum. Music in Northern Europe in general, there was no drum at all until the Middle Age, until the time of the Crusades. Drums were brought back from the Crusades. So melody is what it's all about. And even an Irish piper, this is John Derrick's woodcut from the 1580s. The Irish there's no drums there at all. The Irish forces fighting against the English were using bagpipes. And at the same time, and this is the entry of the drum into it, this is the British military. This fellow here with the drum in the middle. That's the first drums came into Ireland. Were with the British military in the 1580s, 1590s. This is the other form of drum, the Lambeg drum, which is probably the oldest indigenous form of percussion. But this is a copy of a Dutch war drum. This would date to the middle 1800s. This particular drum, but this was used in the present day by loyalists, by pro-British thinkers in the north of Ireland. But these drums are also used by the Hibernians, who were the very strongly nationalist forces in Ireland in the 19th century. And they were interchanged. They both used the same drum. It was just a big drum. Anyway, the tambourine. This is where we come into the real bodhran story, I suppose. Like a tambourine really is the Irish form, is a frame drum which has jingles on it. You probably have all seen tambourines, usually a lot smaller than the Irish bodhran, but they always have jingles. Tambourines go back a long, long way. This is a picture from 200 BC, but I think this picture is from even further back, maybe 3,000 years ago. Always played by women for maybe thousands of years. And they were played even in early Christian ceremonies, until eventually one of the popes, I think around the year 850 or something like that, AD, tambourines were banned out of Christian services. It's a very kind of sophisticated Scottish family, wealthy big house family, and the daughters once playing like a bouzouki and a tambourine. These would have been instruments which have been brought back, exotic instruments brought back when the parents were maybe on their tours in Europe, the genteel tours in Europe at the time, brought back from Greece or from Turkey, but they weren't indigenous. There's one book about the bodhran, which I won't even mention the name of, but the fellow says because this is a painting from 1790 in Scotland, this shows that they had bodhrans in Scotland in 1790, but that's nonsense. They must also have bouzouki's in Scotland in 1790. I don't think they had, but instruments did travel around the world with people. This is the first mention of tambourine ever in Ireland in a newspaper, a popular music show in Dublin in the 1740s, when she strikes the tambourine. And but that's the first mention in an Irish newspaper of the tambourine. And there's lots of mentions after that. This is from 1805. Ladies' tambourines in different sizes, so they were obviously associated with women at the time. A lot of big house young women were taught to play the tambourine. It was considered a woman's instrument. The major input of entry of tambourines into Ireland has been with black and white minstrel shows, racially, politically, a very negative concept. But this was the beginning of popular music in America in the 1830s. Prior to that period, if you were Croatian, Lithuanian, German, French, you went to see German music, French music, Irish music, whatever. But in the middle of the 1800s, they decided to they formed this kind of music that anybody could go and appreciate. So these fellas these were all white, they blacked up their faces. White audiences in America could tolerate people masquerading black people, but they couldn't actually tolerate black people. One of these strange things about racism, the beginnings of racism. But the instruments they played there, the key ones for us would be the early form of accordion or concertina, banjo and tambourine, and bones as well. The fellow to the left was playing bones. And these groups they went touring around the world from the 1830s. They came to Ireland first in the 1830s, and they were touring in Ireland until 1914 or 1913. So they were in Ireland for almost 60 years. Word spreads out, people copy things. The tambourine must have seemed like a very, very simple thing to copy at the time. This is a picture from Dublin in 1928. The Irish music is full of accounts of copycat black and white minstrel shows being performed by rural groups all over Ireland. 5 tambourines being played at one time. So these things were all around Ireland. And it's clear that the tambourine was being witnessed in Ireland. So my feeling would be at that time people began to copy tambourines. This is again a painting from 1832. If you look up at the top right-hand corner of that painting, behind the piper and the fiddle player and the flute player, there's a wee fellow playing a tambourine. I would say that painters are known to glamorise things. Now, it is possible the wee boy was playing a tambourine which belonged to somebody in the local big house that loaned him a tambourine, but it's also very possible he was just beating on a household bodhran. And the painters like to glamorise things. Like for instance, the piper there, the pipes here playing, they're made of silver, which is very unlikely such a ragged itinerant piper would have a very valuable set of pipes. That's the earliest painting of an Irish scene with a tambourine present. This is Cork in 1832, near Cork Céilí Band. But you can see the jingles, it's not a bodhran, it's a tambourine. But it's the same size as an Irish bodhran. This is an old picture from 10 years later in Kerry, a group of 2 musicians, a flute player and a tambourine player playing in a pub. They may have been part of a pantomime or something, nobody knows what this painting represents. But there's a woman called Claudia Kinmont who has written a lot of books about Irish country furniture and clothing and things like that. And she reckons that this was an amateur painter. It's very likely that what she painted exactly what she saw. So if this was somebody playing an actual tambourine, that's probably the way it is. It is a tambourine with jingles on it, being played up and being played with the hand as well. Now again, this painting is cited by John B. Keane. He said this proves that we had somebody playing the bodhran in Ireland in 1832, but I mean, it's not a bodhran for a start, it's a tambourine. And the fact that people were interested in percussion, yes, at that time, it was being played along with the flute. With the major outlet for the tambourine in Kerry, in particular in West Limerick, it became the Wren, this face of the Wren. You probably all heard of this the day after Christmas, Stephen's Day, when young people dress up in costumes. They weren't making noise or playing music. But all the earlier portrayals of the Wren in the 1800s, there's rarely any music present, but sometimes it's a fiddle or pipes, but there are never tambourines. This is a photograph that Keane O'Donoghue took in 1947 of kids, but they're playing, crudely made homemade tambourines. There's always jingles nailed onto the outside of them. So they were playing a drum with, and they were always called tambourines. There are accounts in books by Brian McMahon and even earlier John B. Keane works where they talk about the tambourine being played. And you can see the lads playing, they're just music, and what they were doing with the tambourines, obviously playing some kind of a beat, the wee fella playing on the pickup, on the fife. These are all popular photographs, but the earliest recording of anybody playing a frame drum of any kind, this is 1927. And if you look at the inscription there on the, I can, is that called? It's flute and tambourine. At the same time, people were playing the tambourines on the Wren. But as Miel O'Sullivan says in the very first article written about the bodhran, he says that the tambourine, you would never ever play a tambourine any day other than on the Wren on St. Stephen's Day. He said it was like wearing shamrock. You only ever wore shamrock on St. Patrick's Day. If you wear it any other day, you're considered mad or an idiot or something like that. So the tambourine was only ever played one day of the year and never played along with music. But yet, people who were good at the tambourine wanted to play it. This is Céilí Casey. He must have learned to play it maybe back in the 1920s. And he's playing a tambourine. If you look at his drum there, has there's jingles in the drum. This is County Clare in 1957. So it was obviously around at the time. In some of the early flat photographs, you see people playing tambourines, but they're always called tambourines. Any accounts, they always refer to it as a tambourine, never ever the word bodhran. These two fellas, the Shees from West Limerick, 1962, they were both fabulous tambourine players, and they always called it tambourine. And they played drums with no jingles on them, and they were kind of whiz kids. If you think you've heard extrovert tambourine players or bodhran players, there's nothing to beat these fellas here. And because it became popular as an instrument in West Kerry in particular. But this is all after. Again, this is the fleadh in the early 1960s. But you're playing a tambourine, you can see it, there's jingles on it, we have a metal, probably a plastic frame on that one, but being played with an accordion. So people were getting an idea that they liked the idea of percussion being played along with music. But the first time that people really ever heard about or any kind of a frame drum in Irish music was John McKean's play Sive. His play was put on in Dublin in 1959. And for some reason, the press picked up on the fact that he had a tambourine being played in the play, the fellow in the left here. And that's the actors in the play, a fellow called Sean Cowell. For tambourine, you can see the jingles on it as well. But the press really dwelt on this drum. And there's one woman she was doing a survey on the bodhran back in the 1960s in UCC, and she talked to this fellow Sean Cowell. And he said that while he was performing in the play Sive in the Abbey Theatre, Sean O'Irr was the musical director there at the time. He was doing music which is entirely separate from the plays. And he met this fellow down onto the stage. He said, "What's that yoke?" Your man said, "This is a tambourine." Sorry, I think he said. And O'Irr said, "I could use that." And the next year, O'Irr had formed his ensemble, Culture Coolin, and he had a tambourine there with no jingles, and he called it bodhran. And because O'Irr had a radio programme which was on three times a week, suddenly the bodhran became part of Irish music. Inside a few years, it just suddenly started appearing everywhere. Because this is great percussion form inside Irish music. So all the latent percussionists who had no way of expressing themselves at all in Irish music, suddenly there was a way they could express themselves. So they had the chance on the bodhran. So this drum was always called a tambourine until O'Irr came along. Even in the newspapers all through the 1960s, they kept referring to this as a tambourine. Sive player, every time they put on the play Sive, they had to find the tambourine in order to do the play properly. And that's John B. Keane here, and that's his first edition of his play, Sive, in I think 1959, I think it was. But there's the play in 1959, and the one below it is that he reissued the play in the 1980s. And you can see the first edition he talks about the sound of the tambourine being played, right? But 20 years later or 30 years later, he changes it. The sound of a bodhran being played. It's the same play, but he just changed the word tambourine to bodhran because it became known as a bodhran at that time. It wasn't a bodhran. So people again assume. John McKean, he began to write the idea of the bodhran into history, and he wrote a book. Have you ever read the book called the Bodhran Makers? Anybody ever read it? But it's total fiction. Like, everything about it is fiction, including the popularity of it, the way it was made. Because in all literature from the same period, it's always referred to as the tambourine. It was never ever called a bodhran. But that's fiction. It's fiction. It's very good. His books are very good social history. But he's fiction, I suppose. Well, the final word, that thing with the word, they eventually began, after the flag coals started, they began to have competitions. And the first competition was held, I think it was called in, this might have been the Limerick County Fleadh, back in 1962. They had sent out, it was the first ever tambourine competition. And it was called the Tambourine. You can see that there on the thing. It was called the Tambourine competition. Everybody called it Tambourine. And you see, Michael Sheehy and Barrett are two to watch there in particular. But then, again, 1965, it was called the Bodhrán competition. And it's the same people, Sheehy's there, and Barrett is there again. So, the name of the instrument changed, it's just a change of name, really. But there is a difference. The earlier tambourines and jingles, the bodhran had no jingles. So it's like the final conversion took place. The word bodhran refers to a skin tray. Because the skin tray had become obsolete, the word was hanging around, a kind of an obsolete device. I think maybe early tambourine players, because they weren't really regarded as musicians, probably people were slagging them off, you and your old bodhran, rather than saying, you wouldn't call it a tambourine, called it a bodhran, because a dismissive term for an obsolete object. So I think when the word stuck, we have the word bodhran since. This is Sean Arena playing one of his very early rehearsals for his radio programme. Again, he's playing an actual bodhran now, there's no jingles on it. There's Ronnie McShane playing the bones. That's coming into modern time when you recognise all of these people here. Amy, who's teaching here, Kevin Cudiff, who I was playing with the other day in Wicklow. The remarkable thing with the bodhran as we know it is that all the people who developed the drum as we know it, and all the people who became stars and expert players on it, they're all still alive. So that's that's the best testament to how modern the instrument is that its best players, its most exhibitionist players and its makers, they're all still alive and still making and playing. And this is you've probably all heard of Colin Murphy. It's a record called the Irish Bodhrán. Have any of you ever heard it? Yeah. Recording, but he's so careful not to intrude that you can barely hear the bodhran the whole way through it. This is one of your tutors here. This is taken here, I think, 2022. Siobhan, is it? And again, this is Kevin Giff playing like the rabbit and the Barry painting. But again, this is again a woman in America. Some of you probably know her. Do you? What's her? Cara Wild Man or something. Yeah, that's right. Wild Woman. But again, a very sophisticated player. So the bodhran is not just popular in Ireland, popular in other cultures as well. So this is kind of people still do the Wren. It used to be young people, teenagers. No matter what we caught dead in the Wren in the past. Nowadays, it's these young people. They brought the Wren with them through their lives. I think it's the Munster fleadh back in 2023, I think. But again, the bodhran has become a kind of it's gone from being totally invisible in the 1950s to be really at the front of society, but it becomes so symbolic of a lot of things about Ireland. Everybody wants to be seen playing a bodhran, even Bertie Ahern. He's the Irish Taoiseach Prime Minister a number of years ago. Again, this is another Irish president, Mary McAleese. People always have to be seen playing bodhrans. It's a symbolic thing. And this is Dana. She won the Eurovision Song Competition one year, trying to stand for election in Mayo. She's holding with the bodhran. And Bobby the soccer man, bodhran. Advertising Opel cars. So it's become a kind of iconic object. She paints things on it. This is a GAS supporter, I think a temporary GAS supporter at a match a few years ago. Or is it Claire, or is it Ukraine? These colours are very popular. But the bodhrans, tambourines have always been painted on, go back 300 years. And people are still painting things on them. But as somebody remarked from one of the better bodhran tutors from the 1970s, just because you paint a lovely Celtic design on a bodhran player doesn't make you a better bodhran player. No more than painting a big number on the side of a family sedan car doesn't turn it into a sports car or an automatic car. So Again, this is a symbol, the bodhran become a symbol of traditional music as well. This is Bill Mullet and Harry Mayo. And again, there's a bodhran upside down in the ceiling. They turned into a light in another pub. And again, this is Ireland journal. Some of you probably know this journal from Germany. Again, the bodhran's symbolic. You put Celtic designs on it. And it's the icon, again, sculpture. You've probably seen it. It's in Liston, Varna, not too far away from Doolin. And beautiful sculpture of by Eanna cousin. And again, this is the biggest, the mother of all bodhrans. The Frank McGann Festival up in County Roscommon. Frank played the bodhran, and so they have a festival. So the bodhran really is a symbol of his stuff. The bodhran is also made under postage stamps, which is quite remarkable. They're very careful of what they put in stamps. Harps in the past. There's a bodhran all of a sudden. A lot of musicians are very annoyed with this. But anyway, this is what I call Malachy Kearns, who probably recognises the main PR man of the bodhran. Again, a stamp for the 50th anniversary of Colas Oirr. There's different instruments. There's one of where we're playing the bodhran. And again, another stamp, postage stamp, the chieftains, with Kevin Cadef playing the bodhran there at the left-hand side. So, it's once you think getting out the stamps, another stamp then for the Europa stamp, symbolic of Ireland. There's another one with a harp on it. And again, this is anybody who's an Irish passport. If you look at the right-hand side here, in the passport there's a group of instruments here. There's a harp, and there's all sorts of fiddles, flutes. There's a bodhran. There's no uilleann pipes. The uilleann pipes, it's got status as a European protected instrument, but for some reason the artists couldn't draw them, so the Irish passport. we all. This is the image. We're all carrying around. If you have an Irish passport, you have a bodhran in your pocket. If you ever want to explain it, this is what an Irish drum is. It's the bodhran. You show your passport. So that's more or less the gist of where this thing is. Come from. The name bodhran comes originally from skin tray. Was there ever improvised as a drum? If any of you have the book, you'll read in the book. I deal with a lot of the myths that there are about the bodhran. One of the big myths is that people want to interpret the word chimpan. Many times they thought the word chimpan is mentioned. That's T-I-M-P-I-N. But whereas in European music, the chimpan is a drum. In Irish music, the chimpan is a stringed instrument like a bouzouki. And so there's a whole chapter dealing with that confusion in this book. So that's really all I'd like to say, and probably I'd hope that.